Well, Shemai Shemai, welcome along to the first ever, I think, CrossFit Llanelli Podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me here, this side, is Lindsay.
Hello.
Good morning. You can see she's in the gym. I'm in the house. And yeah, this is the first...
You're nice and warm. I'm very cold.
Well, yes. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I'm wearing a blanket. I've got the radiator on next to me, and I've got a cup of coffee here. So this is our first ever CrossFit Llanelli podcast, which is, in a sense, taking over from the old newsletter that we used to have and the newsletter that you used to be in charge with. So you've kind of passed me sideways responsibility there. Why don't you tell us what it is that this podcast is taking over from?
Well, this is going to be an opportunity for all our members to learn maybe a little bit more about our other members inside the gym and outside the gym. Any special milestones or achievements. Lots of our guys do comps or things outside of the gym, and it's just for people to know what we're getting up to and what we're achieving, and just to celebrate together.
Yeah, and that's especially important when you think that we may only train with a small section of the gym, or people might achieve things, but they might not want to like self-promote that.
Yeah.
To be like this community, and we've got it on the screen below, a strengthened community, Cryfder mewn cymuned, that to know and to encourage and things like that is really important as well.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of members here, but everybody knows who everybody is, but we don't always get the chance to bump into each other and see what we're getting up to. So it was just a way of bringing us all together, so we all know a little bit about each other. Weddings and births as well, anything that kind of goes on where what you'd want to know about.
So 100% this podcast is going to carry that on. It's going to be an opportunity.
And more as well, Sammy. Yeah. The gym has moved with the times. We're all moving with the times, and I think the newsletter's got to move with the times as well. And I totally got every faith in you to make it 100% bigger and better.
Faith in us. So the plan at the moment, this is obviously the first one, plans can change, is that it will keep that community vibe to it, that we will have updates about things which have happened. I don't want to use the word, but I can't think of anything better. Promotions about things that will happen, like to fill us in on gym stuff. And like you say, members doing things outside of the gym. But also in this podcast format is going to be an opportunity specifically to get to know members better, their CrossFit stories, how they got into CrossFit and how it's affected and changed them, and a way for our owners and our coaches to speak a little bit about aspects of CrossFit and CrossFit wider than literally what you're doing in the gym, which in our class, we do a little bit around the whiteboard, but we don't always have an opportunity to. So this podcast, for example, in today's podcast, Rhiannon and I are going to be discussing a little bit. Coach Ackerman, she put up a quote this week about what we need is not so much more volume or heavier weights and things like that coming into the new year, but we need more consistency. So we're going to just chat a little bit about consistency and why that is like an important thing for CrossFitters and what that might look like for us. Absolutely. So that sounds quite exciting, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I can't wait to see the first one.
Yeah, okay. Well, that being said then, I'm going to jump on with Rhiannon and we're going to do our little chat about Coach Ackerman. So thanks very much.
Bob.
And remember, don't be shit.
Now, I lied a little bit to Lindsay. We're not going straight to Rhiannon. Before we go to Rhiannon, we're going to have the first ever CrossFit Llanelli Coach Awards. A couple of weeks ago in our Christmas party, we had the Members Awards given by coaches, and some of them voted for by members. But this is a little bit different. This is us, the members, giving back to our coaches. Does that make sense? So we've been chatting, we've been thinking, we've been scheming about which awards we should have and who's going to win them. And let me tell you, there are some absolute winners. So the first award is this, the ASBO Award. Who is it from our cohort of coaches who is most likely to be involved in an incident? Inside, outside of the gym, to do with CrossFit, maybe why High Rocks is a load of nonsense. Maybe it's just dealing with drunk passengers on a train. Well, it doesn't work for the trains anymore. No, the winner of this is obviously our co-owner, the most qualified coach in CrossFit, Andy Starling. Andy, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I don't want to have a fight. The next is a little bit like the last, but this is more sort of gym-induced violence. It's the Corporal Punishment Award, and it's the coach that we decided we felt was most likely to hit someone during a class, usually for not listening, usually for asking stupid questions around the whiteboard. Of course, there could only be one winner for this award. The Corporal Punishment Award goes to Gemma Cowell. Gemma, thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow and making sure that we are all in line, regimented, listening very carefully. The next award is the Roy Walker Award. Younger viewers might not know who Roy Walker is. Roy Walker was the original host of the TV show Catchphrase. And so this award is awarded to the coach that we feel is most committed to catchphrases. After all, if it doesn't rhyme, then it's a waste of time. And again, there's no prizes for guessing who it is that won this award. If it had been running for the last 10 years, he'd have won it every single year. It's Andrew Bowen, the people's coach and the champion of catchphrases. Next up, we have the Friday Night Pints Award. Who is it out of our owners and coaches who will most likely lead by example at any given CrossFit Llanelli social event? Now, it's fair to say that a number of our coaches put their CrossFit credentials to one side when it comes to alcohol intake at social events. But one coach really does stand out from the crowd. So much so that she's been known to go out, take her husband home, put him to bed, and then come back out again. Yes, of course, it's Lindsay, head of raw gymnastics and our very own level 2 coach. Lindsay, well done. And thank you for making sure that the party doesn't just get started, but keeps on raging into the night. The next award might come across as a little bit harsh, but it's not intended in any way. It's the Jekyll and Hyde Award. Which coach is it who transforms the most when the clock strikes class time? Now, this coach is usually quite shy, small in her voice, but is transformed into a presence when she's coaching. And this one goes to one of the new coaches in the gym this year. She's challenging for that position of head coach with the number of classes she's doing at the moment. It's Aisha. Congratulations, Aisha, on your award. Next up, we've got the Bursting with Enthusiasm Award. Which coach is it who is most excited to see members arriving for class, is most enthusiastic when you walk through the door and just makes you feel loved, makes you feel as if they're over the moon that you've arrived? Well, to my mind and many others, there's only one individual who could win this award. Now, of course, Bailey is a dog and not actually a coach. So accepting this award on her behalf is going to be Sam Tarn, Big Reese Sams. The Head and Shoulders Award, least likely to have dandruff. It's not actually why this award has gone to this individual. It's not because they clearly don't have any dandruff. It's because in terms of stature, they are the tallest, the most imposing of all the coaches, and it is Adam Reese. Adam, you're wearing a hat in this picture, but many of us can attest to the fact that there is no dandruff going on up top with you, my bride. The next award is the only award that has been sponsored specifically by a CrossFit brand, and it is the Grips Are for Wimps Award. This has been sponsored by Frog Grips, which is ironic because this coach sees that it's their duty to let us know every single time that they don't wear grips, that grips are for wimps, that if you want to be good at strict pull-ups, you have to get rid of those grips for all of your gymnastics movements. Yes, she's back in the coaching fold, and this one goes to Rhiannon. Soft heart, hard hands. Congratulations, Rhiannon. Now, the next award really needs to be introduced with a joke. You might have heard it. It's hard to do on my own, but here we go. Have you ever heard of the knock-knock joke of the interrupting cow? It goes like this. Knock, knock. Who's there? Interrupting cow. Interrupting cow. Moo! That's right. This award is for the coach who is most likely to interrupt their own WOD briefing. We've not had a lot of opportunities to put this one to the test. But if anybody's going to interrupt their own briefing, it's going to be this coach, the newly qualified Darren Bowen. There he is. He hasn't aged a day. Congratulations, Browd. And then one last final award, the Pocket Rocket Award. Which coach is most likely to prove good things come in smallest, tiniest packages? Well, that can only go to our newest qualified coach, Becca. There she is, not receiving her L1, but dressing up. I presume this was Halloween and you were dressing up for something special then. Anyway, that is it. That is the 2024 Coach Awards from our members for our coaches. Thank you for all that you do. And here's to 2025. Now it's time to fetch in Rhi.
If you've got any injuries or niggles, just let me know and we'll work around it.
Here we are, Rhiannon. Welcome to the CrossFit Llanelli Podcast.
Hello, thank you.
Did you ever think you'd see the day?
I didn't. And you know, when people started doing podcasts a few years ago, I thought, what a load of nonsense. But actually, I think it's a good idea.
What, podcasts in general, or do you mean
No,
like everyone having a podcast?
Yeah. No, I like podcasts. I've always listened to podcasts and I think they're great. But I think, you know, small time people doing podcasts, I thought, what a load of nonsense. But I think perhaps it could be good. Let's see.
Well, Lindsay and I were speaking earlier about sort of like the role or the hole that this podcast can fill in terms of supporting us as a community, helping to connect people together, and also being like an arena in which some of the stuff our coaches might want to teach us about CrossFit more broadly and generally want to communicate to us, but because of time constraints in an hour in the gym, like there's only little snippets that we can think about and discuss. So that's, I guess, what this section is going to be about.
Yeah, I love that.
We take an idea and we go with it. And for the first episode, which this is, you have very kindly, I don't think you realized you were doing this, but you reposted on the CFL Instagram page this, I want to call it a tweet, but it was a picture of a tweet from Jason Ackerman. I'm going to read it out because some people might be listening, not watching. 99.9% of people who do CrossFit don't need more, they need better. Less concern about volume, loading, and programming, and more concern with consistency. 99% of people who do CrossFit don't need more, they need better. Less concern about volume, loading, and programming, more concern with consistency. So what was it that was like jumped out at you for this? You don't repost everything that he ever posts, so something must have caught your eye that you thought would be useful for our members.
Yeah, like you say, I repost the things that perhaps we can't quite get across in that hour of coaching. And obviously, you know, lots of people follow our Instagram and hopefully they do pick up on the little things that I repost when I can repost them. Consistency, you know, we've got mechanics, haven't we? Then consistency, and then we bring in the intensity. And I think the consistency is the main thing here. People look at, you know, the different programming, and they say, oh, I'm not getting better, I'm not following the right programming, let's follow a different programming. And okay, if you're consistent every day of the week, and if you're moving really well every day of the week, and you're doing all the other little bits and bobs, then yes, maybe programming is the place to look, and perhaps that would get you that 1% better. But for 99.9% of the population, it's about being consistent first.
Yeah, I mean, this really caught my eye, especially it coming to New Year's. And I'm not entirely sure people who are already like committed to the gym make massive New Year's resolutions. Of course, there's going to be lots of people who think, okay, my New Year's resolution is going to be to get fit and go to the gym. But I was thinking, like, what could it be for our members at CrossFit Llanelli? They might sort of say, oh, this year I'm going to RX more of the workouts, or just pick something like that. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna turn up early to stretch. I'm just gonna go harder than I have been recently. You know, there's sort of other ways of articulating certain resolutions, but then this I think the final slide of it really sums it up for me, that it's more about doing anything regularly and for a long time than going mad on something for a really short period of time. So like the idea of just getting into the habit or the routine of stretching once a week, you do that for the entire year, you've stretched 52 times. But what some people will do will sort of like, January will come and they'll be like, right, I need to stretch every day. And they'll keep it up for 3 days. And then it's like, oh, I can never find time to stretch. So they stop. And so you've done it 3 times that year.
I mean, like one of my favorite quotes is done is better than perfect, isn't it? And we strive for perfection all the time. But what is perfect? It's not a real thing. It's something that we've just made up in our heads. And I think, like you say, if you stretch for 1 minute a day, every day for the whole year, then you know, you've done that for many more minutes than if you'd done a half an hour stretching, perhaps for 2 or 3 days at the start of January, and then that's it. Then you sort of give up and it flails off. Atomic Habits is a really good book, and by James Clear, and he says a lot about that, about like just building these little habits, and eventually you can build on these habits and make them bigger and more valuable, and you know, and become consistent in those little things. I think the New Year's resolution thing, you know, people who go to these regular gyms, global gyms, whatever you want to call them, they might just say they want to train more in the new year. They want to train more. But the thing is, with going to a global gym, you don't know how hard you're working. You've got no kind of gauge on your intensity. And I think it's not about that. Just go every day and being consistent with it.
I think one of my favorite things to experience in the gym is someone being there and saying that they're not feeling it that day, but they're still there.
Yeah.
And they might not have been able to push as hard as they would, like, again, on their imaginary perfect day, but they've come and they've done something and they've made like that small step, that small progression forward as well. I mean, that might sound a little bit sadistic, saying I like hearing people saying, I'm really not up for it today. Yeah. But I love hearing it in the context of, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that
I think without, you know, sorry, and I forgot what I was going to say now. I think with our gym though, like, to be honest, I love this post, but I think so many of our members are consistent already. Like you say, they turn up, and it's not, you know, people will say to me in work, oh, I don't know where you find the motivation. Oh, well done. Like, you know, and it's not really, it's not motivation. Like, doing something is what breeds the motivation. You just get up and you go. I don't give myself the option of whether I'm going to go to a class on a Monday. I know on Monday I'm going to 9:30 CrossFit class. There's no choice. There's no thought about it. I haven't got to gear myself up to it. I put my gym clothes on, I take the kids to school, and that's it. You go. And I think so many of our members are like that. And like you say, we turn up and we think, oh, we're not really feeling it today, but we're here and we're going to move.
So what do you think, like, having posted this screen, I've got less concern about volume loading and programming. he's like putting those out as the things that you could wrongly focus on over and above or before consistency. What do you think they might end up being for us, where it's like a wrong distraction for our members?
Yeah, like I said with our members, the consistency is there, okay? But what a lot of us get drawn into is this increase in volume, isn't it? We're always, and this isn't a bad thing, but I think we do need to be careful with it, is the optional extras. I think it's lovely to be able to do them, and it's nice to stay around after class and doing them. But if it takes away from you putting in the effort to the workout itself or doing the class, I don't think it's going to benefit you in the way that you think it will. You know, the game changer in the programming for the day is the class. And if you've only got half an hour to train, or you've only got an hour to train, then that's what you need to do. Okay, if you've got a little bit longer, then yes, there's time to do the optional extras, and that's okay. But the thing for our members is not to go too hard on the volume when perhaps there are other things we could be working on that would move the needle more for us than just doing some, I don't know, single leg RDLs or something like that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, would that sort of look like then, I don't know, me making the decision, okay, yeah, I'm gonna, every time I turn up, I'm also going to stick around afterwards for the extras, but then get into the place where that means I hold back in the class knowing that I've got more work to do afterwards. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Because
I think for most of us, I think doing the class and doing it well, not necessarily max effort. Like that's another thing to bring up, isn't it? But it's not max effort. It's not going all out. It's not blowing every time you do a workout, but it's intentional intensity, isn't it? In that hour. And really, in theory, if you've done that, not physically, but also your CNS and, you know, your mental effort into that workout, should, for 99% of people, be enough.
See, one of the words he doesn't slam is intensity. And I think that's part of it, isn't it? Is understanding this is a whole nother conversation I'd love for us to do, is how we understand like the intended stimulus and the intensity for various parts of the different things that we're doing. You know, the strength portion, the metcon, the extras, like what is intensity, what stimulus we should be trying to hit and things like that. But he doesn't slam intensity in that sense. Like that remains something that, again, could probably go on this slide. We should be more concerned with consistency and intensity when we are training. Yeah,
intensity is the word, isn't it? So, Greg Glassman, intensity is the independent variable associated with favorable adaptation. So like what that means is like the harder you work, the faster you get results. But obviously there's a fine line, isn't there? You can't throw a complete newbie into a class and tell them to do overhead squats with intensity, because to them overhead squat is such a highly skilled, or like say squat snatch or ring muscle ups, it's such a highly skilled thing. They can't do that with intensity. So like you say, that's a whole other conversation. I can get into it if you want, but
yeah. So I guess last sort of question then is, how would we encourage folks, or what like advice would you give in terms of increasing consistency, of being more concerned with consistency going into the new year? What does consistency look like even?
It's like I said, it's done, not perfect. So don't aim for perfection every day, because you're not going to get it. Okay, you're not going to get 7 days of perfect training, but you might get 7, 6, 5, whatever it looks like for you. You might get 6 days of training. Okay, and whether that's at, maybe one day would be your max intensity. Maybe the next day you'd be a little bit less than that. Maybe one day is just a bit of a zone 2, a bit of a jog. And you've got to balance out, because it comes down to intensity as well, doesn't it? You've got to balance out the intensity. If you're going to go out flat out every day in every workout, it's not sustainable. You're not going to be consistent. So I think consistency has got, and of course it's different for every person, the level of intensity. But I think the consistency is based on the intensity that you can put in every day. And if that means perhaps, like you say, turning up on the days where you don't quite feel like it, but then that means scaling the weight a little bit or scaling the reps a little bit, just in order to say that, yes, you've been to the gym that day and you've moved, then that's you being more consistent. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. 100%. I think the easiest excuse to find is the excuse not to. And when you set the bar high and sort of decide, well, I'm only going to do it if I can reach that threshold, then it just becomes an easier thing to select out of. Yeah, but agreed. I also think, like this is true in all areas of our lives, that having made a decision, we should implement things to make it so that that decision doesn't then need to be made again, if that makes sense. And so I think routine, in terms of coming to the gym, is a really beneficial thing. So any sort of decisions that we can make, if we've decided, right, I want to be more consistent in my training or my eating or whatever it is this year, that you just put something into your routine to make that like a more realistic outcome. I'll give an example, not from the gym, but a personal one for me. I play football every Tuesday night. I got to log it on beyond the whiteboard as soccer, which is fine. But there are some weeks.
It's not fine, quite clearly.
Fun fact, soccer is a British term. It's short for association football. And football does not mean kicking a ball with your foot. Football means a game that is played on your feet rather than on a horse. Okay. I'm a nerd. Okay, there it is. Which is why it's called rugby football, because again, you play on your feet. This is not the point. Okay, so every Tuesday, I want to play football. I'm telling you now, that is like something that I want to do. But when Tuesday evening comes and I'm cold and I can hear the wind and it's wet and there's something else going on that means I might be a little bit busy and I really like the look of the Tuesday WOD and I want to go hard. And I'm thinking, oh, can I do that? And this, that, and the other. Like remaking that decision week in, week out is difficult.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've decided to do, having decided that I want to play football every single week, is rather than turning up every week with my subs, my £4 to get on the pitch, I've set up a direct debit so that whether I'm there or not, I'm paying. And like for me anyway, that just means that I kind of get to that point. I'm thinking, well, I am going. That's a decision I've already made. It's not a new decision I'm making today. And I think we can do that in other ways with routines and saying yes or no to other things that mean that, like the big decision that we've made, I want to be more consistent in my training. We don't need to remake that decision when we're just like not resourced or not in the environment of making a positive decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about like the New Year's resolution and the whatever we want to do, and it's willpower, isn't it? We've only got so much willpower in us every day, and we've got to make thousands of decisions every day, thousands, all the time. We're making decisions about what we're going to do and what's next. And like you say, if we can take that one decision away, it's not a decision to be made. You're going to the gym, you're going to football, it's happening. Make it something you don't have to think about. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I know speaking about food is always a tricky subject, but I heard it put in that realm as well recently. Someone was saying, like, oh, you want to eat less chocolate, what have you? And so every day you walk past the cupboard in your house that you keep the chocolate in, and you've got to remake that decision.
Yeah.
And you've got to be strong to make that decision when, if you're anything like me, you can almost literally hear it crying out to you or whispering your name. And they said, or you can make the decision once, which is not to have the chocolate in the house. So either don't buy it when you go shopping, or there and then chuck it in the bin. And you don't have to keep on making those decisions. And so in that realm, you'd be more consistent with your eating, what have you, right?
Yeah, again, don't put yourself through it.
Eat whatever you want and need. I'm not a dietitian, what have you. Icelandic yogurt every single day. So but yeah, I just think that's coming into the new year, just take the pressure off, take the requirement to have that resource and that like fill of willpower when we realistically, you're not going to have it every day all the time. So remove the option. Everyone
is the same. People think, like, people say to me in work, oh, you're so good, whatever that means. And like it's I'm not any better than anyone else, and it's just those decisions. Just make it easy for yourself. I come to work and often in work, people will say, does anybody want lunch? I'm ordering from X, Y, and Z. Could be Domino's, could be whatever, fish and chips. Sometimes it's just a sandwich. And I brought my lunch, and my lunch is there. And I say, no, thank you, got my lunch. And that's what I'll eat. And it's an easy decision. If I don't bring lunch, then I know when it comes to someone offering me something else to eat, I know I'm going to say yes.
Take the easy route. That's what we're like as humans. Yeah. And actually, that's one of the amazing things that CrossFit does to us. It helps us to encounter difficult things and push on and push through.
It does. It's the identity.
We should be able to implement this better than the general population as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, speaking of lunch, should let you get on. My tummy's rumbling, and I'm going to chat to a member of CrossFit Llanelli in a second. So what's going on in the podcast? You'll find out when you watch it, Rhiannon. All right.
Exciting. Thank you. Diolch i ti, Sammy.
Thank you very much. And blwyddyn newydd dda.
Blwyddyn newydd dda. Ta-da.
Finish with 100 wall balls.
This is the part of the podcast where we're going to be meeting a different member from CrossFit Llanelli every month. And first up, we've got Adam. Now, some people... Hello, Ad. Some people will think of you as Coach Adam, perhaps. Because you're a coach in Llanelli CrossFit as well, but you are first and foremost a CrossFitter, a member of our box, and thought it'd be really good for you to share with everyone how it was that you discovered CrossFit in the first place. So tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to CrossFit.
I'll go back a little bit and I'll build up to a little bit then if you want to. I started training as a child, competitive sports, football, rugby, cricket, judo, all that kind of thing. So very competitive from a young age. I started training then in a commercial global gym, if you want to call it, when I was like 14. Did that for years, as well, back and buys, all that kind of thing, for years and years. And I think when I was growing up as a teenager, I think I became aware of CrossFit, but I never perceived it in a good light. I was always in that perception of where it's dangerous. People shouldn't be doing it. It's no good for you type of thing. But then when I got a little bit older, my early 20s, I went into the RAF. So I was doing more circuit CrossFit style workouts, but at the time not realizing this is what CrossFit is. I was away then 2015, 2016, I think it was 2016, I think. I was away in Iraq on a detachment, and I'll never forget the day. It's just one of those days that sticks out in your mind. Boiling hot day, probably about 40 degrees, and I was in my accommodation at the time, which is a small little cabin, and one of the guys I worked with said, "Oh, look, should we go over to the American side of the base, or the US side of the base, across the airfield, and we go into this CrossFit gym and this CrossFit workout?" I remember the time feeling like, oh, no, that's not a bit of me. I don't want to get involved in that CrossFit stuff. It's, no, thank you. But he persuaded me, and we went over there. And when I walked in, I never forget. I never seen anything like it in my life. is thinking about it now. It was amazing what they had. They had everything you needed for a CrossFit box, but there's just so much going on. It's like going in the gym. There's so much goes on in a busy class, for instance. My mind is a bit blown. What's going on here? So anyway, he told me doing this workout called Filthy 50, which I had no idea what it was. He wrote a whole bunch of movements down on the whiteboard, and we just cracked on. And well, the experience was, for me, was unbelievable. I knew that at the time is so hard, but that sense of like euphoria afterwards, and then it blew my mind, to be honest. And it all started from there.
So that Filthy 50, I guess nowadays is not a particularly famous workout, but back in the day it really was. I can't remember, was it in some way like linked to the film 300 or something like that? It was one of those that like...
It was, yeah. I'm not sure exactly what the story behind it is, but it's definitely linked to the film. I think they follow some sort of training plan, which is loosely based on that style of workout, I think.
I remember being similarly in like a global gym, and one of the lads who I was just used to seeing who would come and do the same sort of incline bench sort of routine and things like that, talking about, this is the workout that they used to get the bodies that they had in 300. It was a long while until I investigated it more, but that was quite like a driving force at the time. So what was it about CrossFit that sort of captured your attention, like drew you in from that first experience?
So I say, from that moment, I'd say that after that, I took a bit of an interest. I was like digging a bit deeper into what is CrossFit, the community. Like I never realized before I started the community, and that sense of like all being in as one, and also as well like the competitive edge of it. Like say throughout the RAF towards the end, I was sort of like dwindling down from like competitive sports as I'd lost interest in playing football and rugby, and then CrossFit took over that, so that competitive edge. So I think that's initially what drew me to it. But as soon as when I came back then from Iraq, and I was coming back home, and I came to CrossFit Llanelli, I think the community then brought me in, and then that's what keeps you there,
So how did you find CrossFit Llanelli? Were you specifically on the lookout for a CrossFit gym, or how did that go?
No, so my wife now, was my girlfriend at the time, she was already a member of the gym, so I knew, so she was going, so I was fully aware of what it was and what they were doing. Plus, as well, I had another friend who's currently in the gym now, was recently come back to the gym this year. He was doing it as well, and he was telling me plenty about it. Plenty about it before, I'd gone to Iraq and things like that. So I was fully aware he was there. But when I came back, then I thought I would experience this for myself, and really get into it. And then, as I say, that's when it really started. It was from that time when I came back.
How much CrossFit did you do with the Americans over in Iraq? Was it just literally that one workout and then CrossFit Llanelli, or were you
yes?
With it?
No, it wasn't. Out there, we only went to that gym once, but that was right towards the end of the time being there. So it wasn't like if I'd done it at the start, it probably become a much more of a regular thing. Plus, as well, I remember at the time, we weren't strictly allowed to go over there. So it wasn't a case of like, you can just go to the American side and jump in their box. We had permission to go over there when we did. So it was because as you can imagine, where we were as well, they weren't keen on you sort of like just going where you wanted to. It was quite restricted. But honestly, I'd love to. I wish I'd taken a photo of that box just to show people, and it was fascinating thinking back and like of what they had, and a lot of it was homemade, a lot of homemade equipment. But honestly, it was amazing.
So obviously now 2025 is CrossFit Llanelli's 10-year anniversary. When did you actually become a member of CrossFit Llanelli?
2016, I remember. That's something which actually may shock you, that because when I joined in 2016, I was still in the Air Force. As you can imagine, I was coming back home, back and forth, and I was away at various periods. I actually remember I had messaged CrossFit Llanelli Facebook page asking to cancel my membership because I wasn't really using it enough. I didn't feel I was getting the benefit out of it. And thankfully to Leah Taylor, who was a previous owner, she said to me, look, we can't cancel your membership now, but what we'll do is we'll drop it down to 2 classes a week just as a goodwill gesture. And I can't be more thankful to her for doing that, because if she'd cancelled, I probably wouldn't be a member now. But yeah, so thank you to Leah, really, for not cancelling my membership.
So she sort of helped you keep your foot in a little bit until
Yeah,
you were
massively.
able to get more involved.
Yeah, yeah.
And speaking of getting more involved, as I said, some people will know you as Coach Adam, perhaps. You're not just a member at CrossFit Llanelli, but you took your level 1 more than a year ago now.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, was it? So
2 years ago, yeah.
why did you decide to do that? How was it that you became a coach at CrossFit Llanelli as well?
So, it's like you get talking to people and people inspire you. I was getting inspired by the coaches who were there. So like Emma Lewis was one of the owners at the time. I was massively inspired by her. People like Andrew Bowen, Andy Rhiannon, these coaches are already there. They inspired me and got me interested. But I'd say the biggest thing for me was discovering was reading Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron. That book blew my mind. It really opened up a way of thinking which I didn't know existed. Some of the things which come out of that book, not just coaching or CrossFit, but like life lessons in general, that really opened my eyes up and made me sort of start thinking about what's my next progression, what do I want to do. And for me, coaching it was a natural step, to be honest. I love it. Absolutely love the progression and watching people progress in their own journeys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Chasing Excellence. It's not particularly about CrossFit in that sense, is it? It's about mindset and thinking.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's never read the book, I honestly, I've got it in the house to borrow. It's so worth it. You can go and read the book, and it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't have to be from the start. You can just go and read different chapters, for whatever you want. It's inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I just want to finish up with a couple of random questions. These I haven't prepped you on at all. For anybody watching, listening, I told Adam that I was going to be asking him how he came into CrossFit, how he became a coach and what have you. These I haven't prepped him. Imagine now a world in which you can delete forever one movement from CrossFit and one implement that they would never reappear again. What would be the one movement you would delete forever and the one implement? Yeah, get rid of.
I would. Oh, this is a good question. I'd probably delete dumbbell thrusters because I don't enjoy them at all. They just don't. I'm quite tall and long limbs. They just don't sit well with me. The dumbbells want to go 2 different ways, and my knees aren't the best either. So for me, it's not the most comfortable movement in the world. Sometimes I should probably work on more. And what was the other part of it?
Like what implement? If there was something we could just chuck out and you never have to use that again, what would it be?
That's a good question, isn't it?
Dumbbell, barbell, skipping rope, rig, GHD machine, like something that we use that you could be like, that's gone.
Skipping rope.
Skipping rope.
No, I love machines. Machines are great. I love dumbbells, but I just don't like double dumbbell thrusters. I'm not a skipping rope was probably. I'm not a fan of skipping rope.
To be honest with you, I can get behind that, mate. The double dumbbell thruster and the skipping rope, I agree, they can both do one. They are.
Your doublings are coming good though. I watched you last night.
No, mate.
Very good.
Got wrecked. Anyway, right. And one more question. This is about you, not me. One more question. So on the positive side of it, if you were going to make your dream WOD,
Yes.
what one thing would it contain? So you don't have to program the whole thing, but what one thing would it contain? And you can take that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, my favourite movement by far is a squat snatch. I love snatching. I think when it's done correctly, it's like poetry. It just flows and it looks good. It looks amazing. It's so hard to master, but I think it's amazing. So I'd probably say a squat snatch. However, I do also understand that it's not necessarily the best movement to have in a workout, because it needs, depends on what the weight is. Care needs to be taken. For me, especially as a coach, I want to see people move correctly and move safely. But I love the squat snatch. Should probably be that.
Well, Adam, I can honestly say that I love watching you squat snatch. I remember when I started coming along to weightlifting classes, whenever it was snatches and you would turn up, I just stare and think, I want to be able to do that one day.
Oh, thank you.
And you were doing that?
A lot of work has gone into snatching. It's great. It's such a good. No, I understand it's hard when I coach people say it's hard. I know it is, but once you stick at it and you see your progressions coming along, same as any movement or anything in the gym. It's wonderful. It's a great movement.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for giving us your time. And just to say, if anybody spots you in the gym and they want to ask you about like a love of CrossFit, if they want to ask you about squat snatching, if they want to ask you about your time in the forces, if they want to ask you about being a dad, if they want to ask you about book recommendations, you're happy for all of that.
Yeah, awesome.
You know Adam.
You can speak to me.
Yeah, get on to him. Well, amazing, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers, thank you.
See you at the 10-year anniversary party.
Yeah, we'll see you. Black tie on.
Obviously, see you before, but yeah, black tie. Let's go.
Thumbs to bums and tight is light.
Well, the podcast is nearly over, but as I discussed with Lindsay right at the start, this is also an opportunity for us to share updates about things that have been happening and will be happening in CrossFit Llanelli. One thing you may have seen advertised recently is the 10-year anniversary of CrossFit Llanelli. Next year, 2025, CrossFit Llanelli is going to be 10 years old, 10 years an affiliate. That is something that doesn't happen by accident. It's actually quite a rare thing, especially in the United Kingdom. It's taken years of dedication and sacrifice from various different owners and many, many members. And one of the things that we're going to be doing to kick off the celebration at the start of January is to have this 10-year anniversary black tie gala dinner. Now, that's taking place on January the 18th, and there's going to be food by Sean Catering. There's going to be music by the Wurlitzers. There's going to be black ties by us and evening gowns by the girls. But you need to have a ticket in order to come along. The deadline for the ticket is January the 4th. And to order a ticket, you need to get in touch with Andy or Ree. There's information up on the Instagram. It's been sent out via emails. I'm pretty sure it's been posted on Facebook as well about how you can pay for those tickets and choose your food and all those sorts of things. But if you haven't already booked your ticket for that, then can I encourage you? That is coming up. The first thing that we're going to get to do to celebrate 10 years as an affiliate is going to be to have this gala dinner together. So make sure that you book that. Now, things that have been going on. Wins for members, significant achievements. Let me just give you a couple of things that have happened. In the realm of CrossFit, well, of course, we had a couple of members go down recently to the ISO fitness competition, and one pair came back with the goods. Donna and Theon got second place. So shout out to you guys for representing CrossFit Llanelli, representing CrossFit, and going down there and dominating and coming away with a silver medal. Speaking of silver medals, we also should give a shout out to resident rower Mark Davis. Now, Mark has been trying his hand at open water and on the river rowing. It's one of the kind of playing new sports things that he's been doing with his CrossFit. And he's got various medals from being out on the sea and being out on the river. But at the recent Fit Fest that took place, Mark went along to compete in the British Indoor Rowing Championships. Did really well on a couple of those events, but came home in particular with a silver medal for I can't remember the exact name of it, mate, but where a pair sport is hunting you down as a pair. So again, proving that CrossFit makes you fit for life and competition. And then the last thing that really just needs to be said, I mentioned it earlier in the Coaches Awards, is a huge well done to our two most recently qualified and soon to be in the melting pot for coaches, to Darren and Becca for completing their level 1 and passing, so I've been told, with flying colours. So those are a couple of the things, a couple of the achievements that we just wanted to celebrate before it takes over to 2025. If people have been doing things that you think is worth a shout out, please let me know. I can only share the things that I'm aware of. I'm not trying to show favoritism or anything like that. These are just the things that have been happening recently in the life of the gym that I know about. This podcast is going to be coming out once every month. So make sure that you subscribe, whether you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify or listening to it wherever. Make sure that you subscribe so you know when the next one comes out. Make sure that you have booked your place at the 10-year dinner, and let me know any things that have happened or that are coming up that would be worth sharing on this platform as well. Perhaps even maybe you want to leave a comment or a question. That might help us for future episodes as well to decide some of the things that we chat about. And so you could influence, hey, if it's a good enough question or a good enough a comment, you might even get invited along. So with that, let me just say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening this far. Peace, and see you in 2025.
I don't smell, come a bit closer.